I'm Edward L. Fairley, the founder and CEO of No Love Incorporated.
I'm Michelle Larkin of Queens Moves Coaching, and together we are the Love Lab. And so today we are going to talk about stories that people bring into love. And by that I mean the triggers, the past history, the baggage kind of things that we think about. So while you're listening today, I would like for you to think about what kind of programming do you have and what kind of baggage have you not even unpacked as you move into your relationships. So we'll start with asking this first question for Mr. Fairley. How much do childhood experiences shape adult relationships?
Wow, that's a loaded question, but
We tr-
I guess the simplest answer is your childhood suggests to you what your concept of love and relationships are. So, unless you have some kind of contrast,
Mhm.
typically your upbringing is going to be concluded to be normal.
Okay.
This is what the norm is. This is what life in its normal state looks like. So if that's abusive, that's what normal is. If that's loving, caring, kindness, all of those things, you are going to learn and conclude that, oh, this is the way that it's supposed to be because
Mhm.
that's what you see. That's what's normalcy to you.
Right.
So oftentimes, that's what you're going to be looking for in a relationship.
Mhm. So normal though, as you said, like abusive could be normal. Um, being married for 25 years, 50 years, 75 years to the same person and not necessarily happy could be normal as well. Would you agree?
Most certainly. So you can conceptualize it as, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of someone being in prison for a long time being institutionalized.
Mhm.
Institutionalized does not necessarily have to be a negative thing. It just means you've been so, the system that you've been in has been so ingrained in you that you think that this is the way things are,
Mhm.
and it's going to be difficult to shift or transition past that setup, that system, that programming.
Mhm.
It will make life really, really difficult and against the grain, so to speak, to move past it.
I would agree. And from my own personal experience, I grew up in a stable household from the exterior at least. Um, and I had some issues that as I grew up that I wanted to do better, right? So there were some things in my household that, like you said, I figured it's potentially normal, but I wanted to do different. So say I wanted to raise my children differently. And so I started doing things intentionally and different. But to your point, I still found myself bouncing back to what I thought was normal, right, by default, even though I was trying to overcome some habits of my childhood. So, for example, I tried to communicate more with my kids than I was communicated with. But that didn't necessarily mean I knew how to communicate, right? So I was maybe speaking more frequently, but that doesn't mean I was meeting their needs. And so by that I mean like, so what kind of patterns do you think that people, or have you seen in your coaching and in the simulator, that people kind of carry and they don't even realize it? They're like repeating things and they find it being either a trigger for some discomfort in their relationship, or even something that they turn it on themselves and like, I must be doing something wrong. But it really is triggered from a childhood habit. Have you seen or experienced any of those kind of things?
Most certainly. So, I mean, we can even start with you using the word communication.
Hmm.
So, a lot of people think that they're communicating, and there's three about three or four routes to poor communication.
Hmm.
So when I do have clients, I have to first rid them of these illusions, so to speak. One, one, and the major one, which is very, very interesting to me, is it has an A and B to it, is a vocabulary.
Okay.
So a lot of people, interestingly enough, they either have a vocabulary but is not that extensive,
Hmm.
or they don't really have a vocabulary, or they think they have a vocabulary but they're not even using the words with the same meaning as the definition of the
I
vocabulary
deal
that
with
they're
that
using.
every day, all day in my 9 to 5. Is people use words that they assume the other person means the same thing, and it doesn't, and it totally throws the whole trajectory of the conversation off. And it could be as simple as done, right? The definition of done. And if I think that done means we've completed the task and I'm giving you a deliverable, and the other person thinks that I've done the task and I'm finished and I'm walking away, that is not the same thing. We didn't get. So to
Yeah,
your
most certainly.
point, and I say that when I'm going back to my own personal experience with my children, I thought I was communicating, right? So as my children got older, they
Hmm.
shared with me, well, you were present, but you weren't present. Like you didn't ask the questions. Like when I said how were you doing, it was very surface, and I didn't go deeper, right? So to your point, I may have had the words, but I didn't have the vocabulary to really excavate. And so, lucky for me, I have children who shared. But think about it in a relationship where the person's not necessarily sharing; they're just holding in their hurt, or holding in the fact that they're not heard, or holding in that you're communicating, but they're not being heard. Like, you know what I mean? Like I think we carry that with us. And how would we know? You know, how would we know?
Well, that's a great question. So, couple ways to know, and that's what this whole concept of communicating comes to play. So, first, you have to have a vocabulary. If you don't have one, you have to grow a vocabulary.
Hmm.
So that means reading more, finding out and looking at the definition of words more, and once you do that, we gotta think about it this way. So children, babies, infants, they cry, wham wham. Then you have to learn the cry. This
Yeah,
cry might
that-
mean
that's,
change my diaper. This
that's
cry
true.
might mean give me a bottle. This cry means get me some cheese
Attention.
doodles, some, yeah, some
Hold
attention.
me.
This cry means hold me, exactly. So different cries mean different things, but the reason why they have to cry is because they can't say give me this, I need this, I want this, I crave this, I would have you. So they lack the vocabulary. So as we grow into bigger children, we're crying through yelling, arguing, frustration, and all those things. And
We
typically,
are.
even
We are.
people who are yelling, they're trying to be heard, but they're not even. So that's an indicator. So if
Yeah.
you have to yell, oftentimes people are yelling to be heard because they think if you hear what I'm saying, that will get you to agree with me,
But
and
if,
then you would actually do what it is that I'm asking or
yes,
give
sir.
me what it is that I want. And that's not necessarily the case.
Hmm.
So that's one way. You have to have a vocabulary. Two, you have to verify. So a lot of people, when they first meet me, I've had people who admitted they were like, "I thought you were kind of dumb," and I'm like, I just laugh. And what they mean, and they've elaborated on, is I would say, okay, so what do you mean when you say this word, or define what this means to
Hmm.
you? And they're like, to me, they're like, that's dumb. I said this, and they expect. But then, as time had lapsed, they realized that, oh, I thought you would know, and I will find out that no, that's not what I mean when I say that word. That's not what and then I'll even say that's not even what that word means.
Hmm.
Actually, go look it up, and they will find that. So I am intentional, especially if I'm meeting someone,
Hmm.
to ask them what they mean when they say a thing. It's interesting that you said use the word done. In my house, I'll ask my wife. I said, "Are you done with work or are you finished?" And we need to verify because done means she's had enough. She's not doing anymore, but the task is not complete. Finished means she's done all of her work and she has concluded her day. She doesn't have to get up early. She's not going to be in late the next day. So that's how we determine whether she's done or she's finished. So to further explain what it is that you were saying is, and what your children were suggesting, is you have to inspect what you expect.
True.
So I might be saying this and expect for you to take this away. And that's when you have to ask, well, when I said this, this is what I meant, or this is what I was asking, or ask them, well, what do you think I mean when I say that? And after a while, you will start to notice that you all are on the same page, and it's not necessary to take those steps. But you'd be surprised, especially since we are on the topic of children. I remember my daughter, when she was a really really small child. She was in the tub and she was enjoying herself, and I finished bathing her. It was about time to take her out, but she just wanted to stay in. So I'm like, "You want to stay in?" She was like, "Yes." So I went and got the rubber duck. I threw toys and stuff in there, and I just let her have at it and play. And then when it was time for me to get her out of the tub, when you're in the water for a long period of
These
time, your
are
hands get
wrinkled.
all wrinkled. Yeah. So I'm just reflexive. I'm saying, "Ew, your hands are all wrinkled and pale." And she looked at me so sincere, and she said, "Daddy, please don't iron my hands," because she
No,
saw
that you
me
don't like
ironing
wrinkles.
the clothes, and I said that her hands were wrinkled, and she also knew that the iron was hot. But I say all that to say people interpret things so much differently than we assume, and then we have that thing called common sense,
Hey,
and that all
hey,
that
hey,
means is
hey. Common sense is not common. That is a bad word.
it, it,
Common sense is not
so
common.
so that's the point. So we think and we walk around thinking that there's a such thing as common sense, which basically means we're not communicating about a lot of things because we're assuming that everyone knows this is common knowledge, not even realizing that we learned this from our upbringing, our
Hmm.
childhood,
What we think is
our
normal.
individual experiences, exactly, which we think is normal, and then we're offended and we feel disrespected because they didn't respond according to what common sense, which is not even
Right.
real, told them to.
So what
So
you circle
those are
back
just
around and
small things.
told us is that basically assuming comes from a predetermined understanding from your normal, right? And then if you get in a relationship and your assumptions about normal are not based on the other person's assumptions of normal because they grew up in another experience.
Exactly.
But I am guilty, most likely. I'm not going to completely confess here, but like you kind of want people to. I just want you to know me. I mean, you should be able to read me, or you should be able to understand, or you know. Not assume, but actually, that's what we probably really mean is that you should be able to gather enough information to make a good judgment about what I want. But if I'm hearing you correctly, we came from different normals. So without clear
That's right.
communication and an agreement on what we want to achieve as a good quality of a relationship, we may make the wrong assumption from time to time about people's words or needs or, you know, tone because we didn't ask clarifying questions.
Most certainly, and where that comes from is our life experiences are so powerful and impactful. We automatically internalize that everyone had the same experience.
Hmm.
So there's so much stuff that we know about
Hmm.
ourselves that we just are so passionate that we are concluding that everyone knows this about me, or just everyone knows this
It's a matter
about
of
this
fact.
lens that I've brought to this. And it's like, no, you actually had an experience that has caused you to think that this is common, or everyone has had it, or everyone sees it the way that you see, and it's just
Mhm.
not. It's not true. It's not true.
Can someone really, truly love and be in a relationship if they don't know themselves? For example, we're talking about communication. I didn't know that I couldn't communicate really well until it was brought to my attention. And then, of course, I worked on it and became better at it. But love requires communication, right? Like it requires communication and a good self assessment. So if I'm bringing into my relationship, say I had a doting parent, right? And they just kind of anticipated my needs. They always catered to me. I didn't have to communicate that much. They just kind of gave. And then I go into a relationship assuming that I'm going to get the same. How do I, how do I love? What is the relationship between love and communication in that space?
So you can love and be a poor communicator. You just can't love if you have not learned to love yourself.
Okay.
And you can't love if you don't know what love is. So we got to really start there. So that word is used so loosely,
Hmm.
when in actuality the concept of love culturally, and I'll say globally, from interacting with so many people and cultures, the conclusion about love is that manipulation is love.
Ouch.
When
Wait. What do you mean by manipulation is love? I
all
kind
right,
of think I know
so
where you're going, but I don't want to make an assumption.
that's fair. That's fair. So the concept of love culturally, and I say it with confidence globally, is love is give and take. I do this for you, you do this for me. We even say love is 50-50, partnership is 50-50, and that's just not true. Love is just giving. It's an expression to someone to share with them a gesture that suggests that you appreciate and you value them lovingly by doing said thing with zero expectations of getting anything back in return. That is what love is. So, what we do is we say, because I've done this and I have a list of things, I expect
Hmm.
for you to do something back for me.
Hmm.
That is manipulation. That is what causes you to feel like
Taken
I
advantage
did all
of,
this for you.
unappreciated,
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
devalued, less than. They
Most
just all the things.
most certainly.
Running game,
Exactly.
yada yada yada.
Exactly. So when love in its true form as a superpower is what I call it, because if I do those things for you to show you that I love you, what you do or don't do after that can't impact me at all. Now, if I'm doing it manipulatively, then if you don't give me or reciprocate, so to speak, then I am frustrated, I'm upset, I'm bitter, I'm angry, and you just don't appreciate me and you don't value me. Now, that very well may be true, but that has absolutely nothing to do with this concept of what love is. Love is not something that you receive, it's something that you give. So now, if two people are doing it correctly, two people are giving without expectation of receiving, the person that is the onlooker looking in, it looks like love is give and take. But
Mm.
that's not true. Love is give, 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 give. And manipulation, on the other hand, is I've done this, so you have to do this. And that's just not what love is.
I would say,
So we have to first define that.
I would agree, and I think you've just kind of touched on baggage that you may bring into a relationship could be unresolved trauma based on being in a family dynamic that was, quote, manipulative based on the definition you just gave, right? Where it was give and take, or you have to earn, or you have to perform for a certain level of love, affection, or recognition. And so that can bring trauma that you may bring into a new relationship because your filter is kind of tainted in that way. Would you agree?
Yes and no, because I also said the onlooker in a loving relationship can conclude that it's give and take.
Mm-hmm.
So if you even watch a loving relationship and both mom and dad are both giving, it looks like give and take. You
Mm-hmm.
saw a loving relationship, but you now have that expectation that I did this for that woman, I did this for that said man, so now I'm supposed to get something in return.
Mm-hmm.
When mom and dad, that exchange, even though it was loving, it was not necessarily what they were doing. They weren't thinking about whether mom or dad gave something back or did something in return. It
Mm-hmm.
just looked like it. So you concluded without the ask, and I have evidence of this. I remember there's been times in my relationship, me and my children have very, very open and honest relationships, and my daughter, my baby girl, is very defensive of me. So she's had moments where she saw my wife not do as feeling like she didn't do as much as I
Yeah.
did,
Wasn't
or whatever
fair.
towards her mom.
Balance.
Yeah, it wasn't fair. Exactly. So she would speak to me about it and ask me, was I frustrated? And I was like, oh, well, you just don't
You don't
you
get
don't
it.
understand what love is. Yeah, you don't know what love is. You have an expectation of your mother towards me based off of what you feel that I do for her. That's not why I do what I do for her. Nor am I looking for her to do what you think she should be doing for me or what have you. So there's a lot of times that there were onlookers, and because again people were either defensive of me they felt that she should be doing more.
Hmm.
And it's like, that's not this setup. And that has nothing to, one has nothing to do with the other.
So what if somebody doesn't have a parent and that can they can go and talk to, and they feel that way? What kinds of questions should we ask ourselves to get to the root of why we may feel like we're either being taken advantage of or we're in a give and take? Like what? How do we get to the root of what we either know or don't know about love? Because we may be bringing in an inadequate definition or an inadequate understanding, but if we're just repeating what we've seen, we don't we don't really know until it's broken, or we're feeling like we're pouring from an empty cup, or we are being drained. Like those are the clues that it may not be going well. But is there any way that we can preempt that a little bit?
Well, there's definitely different litmus tests to see if you're moving in love. So you can identify as to whether you're being taken advantage of, but if you're moving in love, it won't offend you.
Nobody.
You can identify, you can see that, oh, he or she is taking advantage of me, or thinking that they're taking advantage of you, in a sense that they think that they're doing it and you don't realize it, but
Hmm.
it will not offend you. It won't bother you, and you will not change your actions. You won't do it. Now, the litmus test in a loving relationship, the greatest litmus test in a loving relationship is all the things that you would change about your partner are things that would benefit them.
Mm. Looking at it from their point of view.
So there are things that I would change about my wife, but everything that I would change about my wife would make her life easier for her. It won't make my life easier. I just see her getting frustrated about a lot of things that is like, babe, that
Not this.
why are you letting that bother you? So, like, these are the things that I would change about her that she allows to impact her negatively. Whereas most people would say, I would want my husband or my wife to do more of this, and these are benefits that would be beneficial to them.
Hmm.
So, again, now we're talking about in a space of manipulation. My love for my wife is to make my wife's life simpler and more easy going than it is, because of how she interprets or perceives things. So that is probably the best litmus test that I can give from a relational standpoint. What would you change about your wife? If you have, or your spouse, if you have a list of things that would benefit you, more than likely you're moving in a place of manipulation with
I,
all of your actions, most of your actions.
I have,
But go ahead.
I would say I've grown to another version of that. I guess is I've grown to get to the point of, as I'm in a relationship or exploring a relationship, not what are they doing wrong, but could I, if they never changed, and this is who they showed up to be, could I love and appreciate and accept them? Like without just seeing them for who they are, without an agenda, right? Without looking like 17 years in the future, and if they only did this, or if they got jobs, got a promotion, had money, or if they, if I couldn't change you, and this is who you were, how do I feel about you now? Which helps me to get to, am I judging? Am I looking for more than is here? And if I am, that's not on them because they showed up as themselves. So I should
Most
be
certainly.
honest with myself.
That's a wonderful marriage question. That's a marriage question that I definitely challenge people to go into. If he or she does not evolve, if they don't change,
Hmm.
if this is it, would you still say I do?
Would you stay?
And if you're, yeah, would you stay? Would you say I do? Would you get married to them? Because interestingly enough, this comes back to where we started in the beginning. Definitions. There's so many people that are saying I do, but meaning something totally different. They're both saying I do. And one person might be saying, I do want you to change. And this is what I've conceptualized marriage to be. So now when we say I do and we get married, you will become what a married person looks like in my head. Even though you have not been
Magically.
this during this entire
Nope.
relationship, But
Soon as you say I do.
because in my head I've conceptualized marriage to be this way. This is what I'm now going to get. So
Mm-hmm.
I do want this picture. And
Yes.
then you have the other person that's saying, I do like what we've been doing all of
Everything.
this time. I do like what you've accepted about me, and
I will
I
be
would
like
love to
this
do this for the
forever.
rest of my life. Exactly. And I would love to do this, so I do. So again, we have two people face to face before God, hands on the Bible, vows and everything, and they're saying I do, and they mean something totally
Totally
different.
different,
Because
which can
yeah,
devolve
yeah.
into, and I guess, and let's go back to it also, and they're filtering that I do through the lens of what they expect marriage to be, which may be based on whatever their pre history is normal. And so they're bringing that
A
to the table.
movie, a
Yes,
household, it's so many things. Yeah,
Cinderella, Disney movie. You know, we all grew up on the Disney movie
most certainly.
foolishness.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
yes. So, yes. So, how do you see unresolved experiences showing up during conflict? So, in an argument, how do you see or have you seen unresolved issues show up in conflict?
Yeah. So when you say unresolved, are we talking like baggage? I
Like
need you
baggage,
to like
like their
clarify.
baggage, like when people have experiences that they haven't resolved, or like if they have a particular perception about love and the expectations that go along with it in conflict. I'll say for me, I've experienced people throwing at the other person, you're supposed to, right? Because in their mind, they're bringing history forward and saying, if you love me, you would. If you love me, and the other person is not aware, right? Because they didn't talk about this, but in the heat of the argument, you are throwing accusations based on your own experience or interpretation of what this other person should be doing, or if you had been traumatized in your past with another relationship. In the heat of the argument, you may throw at this person accusations that you're really projecting from a previous relationship. They didn't do anything that the other person did, but you are throwing at them accusations based on the other person.
So so
So my
so
question
the
is,
question is, yeah,
the
yeah.
question is, how do I catch that and stop it? So if I see that, if it's coming out of me, I'm in the heat of arguments, I tend to be throwing things at this person and they're shocked and don't respond well. They're like, where'd this come from? Or I am projecting onto somebody something that I didn't do. Like, how do I, again, as a counselor, coach, actually in the simulator, when you get those probing questions, how do you deconstruct that and go back to get to the root of it?
So all right. So there's a couple things. This is actually where we come in because a person's not going to do this knowingly.
Hmm.
So the catch is actually the catchphrase in the statement because you have to catch the fact that you're doing that. Most people that are doing that don't realize they're doing it. Like, I mean, let's even conceptualize it. You said unresolved. Who is going to intentionally move past something that is unresolved if they know that it's hindering them or causing harm to them? Now, is it going to be hard for them to address it once it's presented to them? Most certainly. And more than likely, they'll be in denial, which is why I created the simulation. Because if you tell someone that, they're going to give you pushback. But the way that the simulation is set up, you're reading a scenario or circumstance,
Hmm.
and if that circumstance and scenario makes you feel uncomfortable,
Hmm.
that's not me saying that
Hmm.
to you. That's you telling you that this makes you feel uncomfortable, and then discreetly, there's also counsel within that scenario or situation. So you can discreetly resolve this issue and start working on the things necessary to uproot the rooted problem.
Hmm.
But people are not doing that intentionally. So to catch it, it has to be
I would say
something
people
that
catch it when they have a repeat scenario. For example, the one thing you keep bringing to all your relationships is you. So when you start to have a pattern of situations that are always the same, even though you keep picking different people, it's highly likely that you should at least do a little reflection on either what you're choosing or what you're you're doing if it's consistent.
That's I agree with that, but that's not realistic. And I'm gonna tell you multiple reasons why. One, people, they are going to blame other people. This is why we have people to say men ain't ish and women ain't ish and all of this
It's
stuff
everybody's fault
because
but
they
my own. Is
are
that what we're saying?
exactly they are the ones that have the experience. They are the consistent. They are the common denominator, and they're not going to see themselves. And to add to that, the reason why that is because no one sees themselves. So this is why my job is to teach people how to see themselves because you, whoever's listening, are the only person that you've never seen in your life. You can trust things that have given you a reflection, but you are the person that you've never seen. You can trust a picture, you can trust a mirror, but you've never seen you. And you clearly don't go throughout your day seeing yourself. You
Mhm.
see externally, which is why
You
we
see
can see
evidence of how
other
you showed
people's
up.
you can only see other people's problems and you can tell them easily what their problem is, what their shortcomings are and what they need to fix, but you don't see you. So unless you're taught and you're intentional about analyzing and paying attention to you, you still won't see you. So because of the way that we're even wired to see outwardly,
Hmm.
we don't see ourselves. All we do is see the actual male or the female that's in front of us. So we conclude because of the pattern, from a pattern's sake, that the pattern is men or the pattern is women, not the pattern is me.
Until we hit rock
And
bottom.
I am actually creating and I am creating the pattern of men in which I am hooking, so to speak, and I'm
Hmm.
creating the pattern of women that I am hooking and bringing to my relationship. That is the way you should look at it,
Hmm.
but that's not how you would naturally do so.
I would agree with naturally, but I also um, I've lived long enough to hit the four walls in the room before hitting the door. So there are times where I have slid down the wall, going, "There is something has got to change. I have cannot find the door out of this room, and this isn't working for me." In which case, I do turn it on myself and or look for help. Right. So I would look for something to listen to. I would look for something to read. I would look outside of myself. Again, like you said, I cannot see myself, but there are times where you've tried and tried and tried and can't get a breakthrough, or something continues to occur that is painful enough to make you go look for help, or at least look outside of yourself. Um, and in that space, I would say grateful. I'm grateful that I have people who are honest with me and can tell you, that it's you the problem. You are the problem, and not from a judgy place, but just from a how can I help you space.
Well, the irony in that statement is the underlying core truth and rooted truth in the statement is that the problem in you being the problem is you are looking for someone to make you happy.
Hmm.
So people that are looking and they feel that everybody is the problem is because they're looking for someone to complete them or rescue them where they're lacking. But if you come to a place of a relationship when you're whole, you're not looking for someone to validate or to make you better, which in turn puts the responsibility of your happiness on someone else. And because of that, and on top of the fact that you never found happiness on your own, you're giving the responsibility of happiness for yourself to someone else, and you haven't even mastered how to do it yet. So, go ahead,
I would say
Cynthia. Go ahead.
I would agree. I would agree. And I would say my own personal experience has been the pain has brought that to my attention. So somebody can
Mm,
say it really nicely to you, but pain is a trigger, right? So it's a trigger for change. Discomfort is a precursor to change, or to at least reflection, because it's something that either it causes you to pause, it literally makes you pause, or it requires you to move in a different direction. In that case, I don't regret the discomfort, because the discomfort led me to myself, my savior, and it allowed me to your point, stop looking outside, because
Actually, I applaud your conclusion that pain will do that to you. But honestly, you missed out on one conclusion about pain, and that is some people will actually grow a tolerance for pain and then make that normalcy, which is where we
That's
started
toxicity.
in the
There's some
beginning
toxicity
of
there.
this.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, no, it's not
No.
toxicity. That is when you consistently put yourself in a cycle that is normal. This is why you have people, as we discussed in the beginning, we probably didn't go this hard left, but this was an implication of mine. If you're raised in abuse, abuse is concluded to be love, and you will be looking for someone to hit you. You will
Hmm.
be looking for someone to strike you or to strike. So that is growing a tolerance for pain and also a psychology about pain being love. So that is not necessarily making someone say, "Hey, I got to get away from this." There's actually people that are fighting to get it because
Hmm.
they have grown a tolerance and even a craving and an addiction for it.
I was only sharing my
It is
testimony. It's only one
no, no, no,
perspective.
no,
There are
no. I'm
many.
not.
Hmm.
No, that's why I said I applaud you because you concluded that there's only way, like pain is something that people will move away. No, actually, as the child, when I got beat, I would take a beating over a punishment where I couldn't go outside. I'm like,
See,
beat me.
you strong because you can deal with that. Move on. Next.
Yeah, it's temporal. It's temporal. I
Hmm.
mean, but again, we are
Wired differently.
identifying that again, all of us, and that is the testament of my teachings that we're individuals. I don't generalize. I don't group. I don't do any of that. I look at that person and we determine what is your setup. But I just know because I mean we come from business and marketing backgrounds and they definitely teach that pain is going to get you to move
It'll
and
move at
act
all.
and buy or what have you. Yeah, but some people just increase or move their tolerance of pain to deal with what their setup is. How many people are in painful situations that they've concluded that this is the best that I can do, so they stay. So that's growing a tolerance, and
There.
that's just
So
dealing.
how would I would say the simulator addresses that as well, because there are you do get to if pain isn't the trigger for change, then there's another trigger that would there's a quality of life you might be looking for that you aren't able to achieve because of your high tolerance of pain. So there are ways throughout the opportunity of experiencing no love, the triangle, to move through no loving yourself, to being selfless, and then to evolving. That even if you are in a situation where you have a high tolerance of pain, moving through that process will get you closer to love. Correct?
Now we got to go back to the definition. See, this is what I'm saying. I know this sounds like
Hey, that's why
it
we're
almost
here
seems
to
like it's
have a
pulling.
conversation.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, we really have to conceptualize what's actually happening. We're talking about psychology here. You're assuming that a person is in pain and they want to move from pain. When I'm telling you there's pain, I'll put it to you this way. One of the hardest people to convert into a loving relationship is a person who has always had abusive relationships. There's
Okay,
so many
I will agree with that.
men and women that have catastrophized a person that is actually loving them because it does not feel good for
Yeah,
them to
that is
actually
true.
love and care about them.
That is
And
true.
they would rather have a strike because psychologically they've concluded that love is the strike.
Hmm.
So they're trying to push and fight him or her to get them to lash out, be it call them out their name, hit them or whatever, because they have concluded that this is what love is. So for you to suggest that a person needs to use this to get them out, but first you got to conclude as to whether they have a problem with it
Hmm.
in the first place, because that is what this is what we're talking about defining and the psychology and what a person's lens is. Because if you don't know that, you might be trying to rescue someone who's like, "There's nothing wrong. What are you trying to rescue me from?" Like Harriet Tubman said, I I freed however many slaves, and I could have freed so many more
They didn't
had
want to
they
go.
known they were slaves.
Hmm.
No, not that they wanted to go. Had they known that they were slaves, they were born in a system that suggested that the way that life was is the way it is. So they didn't feel like they were supposed to be rescued from that. In order for you to have a savior, you have to have a circumstance that will make you want to be saved.
I would agree 100%. My approach to this conversation is, however, with a base assumption that there's a choice to listen because there is a curiosity about wanting to
Oh
know
yeah.
love. So that's where I'm
Oh yeah.
coming from. I do absolutely agree because I have also been that person who, when I first felt love, didn't like it. Okay?
It's like, ugh. Yeah.
I
What
did
is this?
right, and I'm just even our friendship. I was like, why are you talking? Like, what is the whole like nice consistently thing? What is that about? What do you need? Right. My first
Yeah.
question is, what
Yeah.
do you
Yeah.
need? I'll
Exactly.
meet
What are
that
you trying to
need, and
get
then
from
I
me?
can move on. Like you would rather take a
What are you trying
beating
to get from me?
and move on. That I would rather give you what you want and then move on than have a relationship, right? Which takes
Yeah.
investment, which requires
Yeah.
vulnerability, which requires
Yeah.
consistency. Because I too did not, it was uncomfortable. But even in that uncomfortable, I'm going to just use our relationship and friendship. The consistency that you offered to me in terms of friendship allowed me to understand what I wasn't getting in other spaces, even from myself, right? Because you had a standard. You had a standard. You maintained your standard. You showed up consistently as who you were. And I was like, why is he not? When is the other shoe going to drop? Right? When is he going
Yeah.
to turn that off and turn into somebody else? When he going to come out of his character and show who he really is? And I say that,
Yeah.
and with all honor and respect, that you have been consistent. And so that
Thank
to me is an expression of love that I wasn't comfortable with yet, because I was coming from the same basis that I would think someone listening for any length of time to this recording or podcast is looking for something that they don't have or don't understand, that I would encourage them to keep persevering. Because if this perks your curiosity, then it is pulling you towards something that may be uncomfortable as you unravel and unpack and revisit some things. And you're like, well, why doesn't that? Well, just keep moving toward that that voice that is saying that, there is a way to learn how to love and to understand yourself and others in that journey.
Now let me. I can speak to that. So I understand. So let's conceptualize what it is that you just expressed. Your thing with me was, like you said, when is the other shoe going to drop?
Mhm.
When is this going to change? Now this is from. So we've bypassed the concept of, well, whether they even need to be saved,
Mhm.
because they might not even feel that their situation is something wrong with it, and they think that what their situation is, though it's so far from
Mhm.
being what love is, they think it's still right.
Mhm.
So then we have this dilemma where we just kind of talked about it, the whole manipulation concept or what have you. Whereas, hey, if you're not giving me anything, now you are going to see me go off because you have not fulfilled your obligation to me, being as though I'm giving this, you haven't given it back. Now, this is the issue. What you were struggling with is the counterfeit of love. Now, the reason why I use counterfeit is because manipulation and love, as we've indirectly concluded, they like identical twins. There's no lifting it in the air to see if it has the strip, to see if it's real or not. It's you have to sit through this thing. Time ultimately is gonna weed it out, which is what you were saying. When is this shoe gonna drop? When am I gonna find an inconsistency? When
Mhm.
am I going to see him show his true colors? And you actually said, what is it that you want from me? So I can go ahead and give you that, because you're looking for me to expect something from you
Mhm.
based off of how I'm treating you. And it's like, no. This is how I treat people.
Who I am.
This
It's
this
just who
this is
I am.
this is
Oh,
what
okay.
exactly. just give it a yeah,
Give it a
and it's
minute.
like well, 15 years later,
Still here.
uh,
Still here. Still here. Still here.
so that is what you've seen and what most people have seen and what most people are going to go into a relationship expecting, which also causes them to start moving in a working for this thing type of situation. And some people, they don't even know how to just receive because they're so busy
That's
being
a word on
transactional.
today. That's a word on today.
Exactly.
Some
Yeah.
people
So
do
yeah,
not know how
they're
to
so
receive.
busy being. No, they don't, because everything is so transactional. So they don't think that something is supposed to come to me without me actually earning it. I have to earn love. Like that's not a thing.
Not a thing.
Love is they either love you or they don't.
Or
You
they don't.
can't like you can't. There's nothing you can
There's
do
no
about that.
points. There's
If
no
you are
points we're
loved,
capturing
yeah,
here.
exactly. If you are loved, this is the best way I can put it. If you are loved, you're wanted, not needed.
Ooh, you better preach. You better preach.
That
That's a
that's
full stop right there. Everybody who's listening, that's a full stop. Let me say that again, sir. If you are
if if you are loved, you are wanted, not needed. You can't earn it. It's not something that you got to do or maintain to sustain the love that someone has for you. You just have that. That is a benefit.
I think that also is true once you love yourself. There is nothing, I think that is a beautiful part of becoming healthy and being able to be vulnerable, is because when you're vulnerable, when you love yourself, there isn't anything to lose. There isn't anything like that's going to hurt that you can't recover from because you give grace to yourself. You can forgive yourself.
Exactly.
You can let go of the pain that someone caused because you are taking care of yourself. And I think that is where I wanted to ask a question like vulnerability in a relationship requires trust. And as we on the whole journey that we've been on today, like like what you think is normal, using the right language, being able to even navigate the f- the habit like I was having that I had of like what's going what do you want? All of that was not based in vulnerability, and vulnerability came later for me. What are your thoughts about vulnerability in a relationship?
That's a great question. So there's a couple of things I think about vulnerability. So the first, and I could just stop right here, but I'll entertain the rest.
Agitate. Thank you
is
so much.
is if you are moving in love or from a self-loving place, the concept of vulnerability doesn't exist.
Hmm.
It's not even possible
Do tell.
to exist because if I love myself,
Hmm.
I've forgiven myself for things that I've done or I didn't do,
Hmm.
and I've given myself grace, and I have apologized to myself, and I've accepted the apology. So, if I've done that, why wouldn't I be able to share what it is that I've done or I haven't done or whatever with anyone if I'm not worried about whether you accept me or not? The concept of vulnerability is if I share this with someone else, they're going to reject me, they're going to judge me, they're going to whatever. But if you love yourself, you've already gone through the actual work that you don't care what another person feels about your past, what you've done, haven't done, or whatever. So the concept of vulnerability dissolves. It just it goes away if you are actually in moving from a place of love and you love yourself and you actually love other people, which in turn, so this is where I'll entertain. So entertaining the concept of vulnerability is to say that if you are in a relationship and you don't feel like you can be vulnerable, that means you have not been in a relationship where the other person has felt made you feel comfortable. And 9 times out of 10, you said something and you've seen them being judgmental
Hmm. Which made
towards
you
others,
stop. Yeah.
or you said something and they were judgmental to you,
Mhm.
or you've seen them being judgmental watching a movie. It's so many things. This is what I mean. When you are interviewing, there's so many ways to interview people to find what we've deemed a non-negotiable,
Negotiable
non-negotiable
list.
list. The previous, yeah. So there's something about this person that has done something either directly to you, indirectly, that suggests that I can't trust them with this information. Which again, which is even a deeper rooted issue because that means you're in a relationship and you're not your full self. So we have more problems because you're hiding. You're not your full self with this person. There's so many things that just the concept of not being able to be vulnerable with your mate suggests about the relationship that I don't think we have the
We don't have
time
the
to
time
get
today, but that
into.
sounds like it's a deeper conversation. But what I did take away from what you shared is that part of what we're saying today is what it takes to be in a dating phase, which is observation and evaluation against what you have determined is your non-negotiable list based on values, right? Of
For those
who
principles
you
of
are
values, yeah.
and who you want to be with. So as you evaluate you and find out that there may be some normal that you don't want to maintain as normal, or you discover that, or as you just said, as you observe others and you find yourself either not safe, not comfortable, not distrusting, then in my world that is don't ignore the yellow flags.
Exactly.
In
That's
your
a
world, that
trigger.
may be something else. But in my world, if you see yellow flags, don't overlook them and explain them away. Pause for a second,
Yeah.
take a look. Doesn't mean it's going to stay
Well,
yellow,
certainly.
but at least take a look.
Yeah. Well, certainly. I agree.
All right. So the closing question I have for you today is what is one emotional pattern people should stop normalizing? Do you feel like that is even a fair question? Are there emotional patterns that you see in our culture that people normalize that may be stopping them or creating some sort of barrier from them either loving themselves or getting to understand what real love is?
Yes.
Great.
I've alluded to it in this exchange, and it's the emotion of happiness. I don't even like. You would never hear me say that I'm happy.
Really?
Th- No, no. Happiness suggests that there's a circumstance outside of myself that
Mm-hmm.
has happened that caused me to feel a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
I have joy. That's something that is God given,
Mm-hmm.
can't be taken away from me. It is
It's not
not
situational.
temporal. It is not. No, it doesn't. No, and the concept of relationship is like people lean on it. The concept of someone has the responsibility of making you happy. That is the craziest. That is one thing that me and my wife have made clear to one another. It is not my job, nor would I ever try to make her happy. It is her job to be happy on her own. Whatever
Mm.
that takes for her, that's her responsibility. I'm not responsible for her happiness, and she's not responsible for my happiness if I was even looking for it. And again, to conceptualize that and say that external things determine that, that means that the external things are the thermostat and you are the thermometer. So those things determine your temperature. I prefer and am my own thermostat.
Mhm.
And I also know even the mere fact that you just shared emotions. Emotions are literal they're decisions. They're not even they are decisions. They're not like you cannot I can't give you happiness. I can offer something and you make a decision that you're happy. Even like
I would agree.
how would I
I
yeah,
would
so
agree. There's
like
a pause.
even
There's a
even
split second between something happening and you having an emotion. And like you said, That is a choice. I
Exactly.
could choose
That's a
to
decision.
interpret this as joy or sadness or anger.
Every
You get a decision moment.
every emotion is a decision.
Hmm.
Uh, how you how you conclude death is, how you conclude life is. Like there's so many different cultural situations and settings that cause people to feel or conclude that they should be this because of this, and which is evidence that these feelings that we have are just their decisions, and I decide what I feel. So but the most common would be happiness, and to go into a relationship with the expectation of someone having to make you something.
Hmm.
The first thing I'm going to ask you is, were you that before them? And 9 times out of 10, when
No, that's
someone
why
is
I'm with
looking for
them.
someone, 9 times out of 10, when someone is with someone and they expect them to make them happy,
Hmm.
they're not happy on their own. So for you to project the responsibility of someone else to make you something that you have yet to learn how to do, that is probably the that's an evil thing to do to someone. You need that, which is why you need to come to a relationship whole. You need to be happy on your own, and for you to put a task on someone that you have not yet completed is just irresponsible, and it's not fair.
It's not fair. However, that's what we do in the Love Lab. It's not just talk about relationship, we dissect relationship. And one of the
Yes, sir.
things we
Yeah.
excavated today is choice and your own personal mindset and the responsibility that you have to bring your best self to the table, but also to make decisions that are wise based on information, not just feelings. And when you need help, reach out. You know, sometimes we don't have all
Yeah.
the answers, and as you said earlier, the one person you can't see is yourself. We see reflections, but we don't
Sure.
get to see ourselves. Our eyes are in our body, not outside of our body. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that it's really nice to be able to share space with people who know and understand love so that you can give it and receive it in the most healthy way. And so I'm really grateful for that. I'm grateful to be able to partner with you on this project because it is genuine, authentic, and just pure giving without any requirements or expectation on either end.
Most certainly, we want to infect the world with a consciousness in this thing called love,
Hmm.
and it is way more logical than it is emotional. And once you gather that, I promise you, love is such a superpower. It makes life so much easier, and you decide to be happy. You decide to be all the things that are optimistic as opposed to those are that are pessimistic. So to learn that, to know it, and to be able to be in it is it's so liberating.
Well, stay with us as we continue on this journey of dissecting, examining, and unpacking the different facets and expressions and experiences of love in the Love Lab. And we'll see you next time on our next episode. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Thanks for your time. Peace.